For y'all to look at what was said in the affidavit, it says iPad last seen or pinged at 10:21 p.m. near 6845 Anderson Street. iPhone last seen 10:4 at 10:24 near 6921 Anderson Street. And then the iWatch was last seen 10:5, 1:14 a.m. at Albury Road. Let me give y'all a visual.
If you thought you'd seen chaos in the Kada Scott case, you haven't seen anything yet. Because tonight, we're diving into something so dark, so twisted, and so unexpected that even her closest friends are saying, nah, this changes everything. This is the part of the story nobody wanted to touch, the part the internet kept whispering about but never fully understood. And now, it's blowing wide open. Because for the first time ever, Kada Scott's last phone calls are coming to light. Not the ones the news talked about. Not the ones the investigators mentioned in one-sentence updates. I'm talking about the real ones. The late-night calls. The mystery number that kept creeping back into her life. The messages that made her heart race. And the voice on the other end that she reportedly told someone, "I'm scared of him." And once you hear who that voice might belong to, you'll understand why fans are saying this case feels more like a horror movie than a missing person investigation. Because no one expected a hidden stalker, no one expected a stranger tied to her past, and absolutely no one expected the final call she made just minutes before she vanished. Strap in, because once we break this down, you'll never look at this case the same again. From the very beginning, people thought the Kada Scott situation was just another tragic disappearance. Another heartbreaking case. Another sad headline. But that was before the phone calls came up. Before the late-night voicemails. Before the hidden number that kept popping up at the worst possible times. And before the story turned into something so dark that even fans who usually love true crime content were saying, nah, this one feels different. Because behind the perfect Instagram pictures, behind the sweet smile, behind the normal life everyone thought Kada lived, there was something else. Something she never talked about. Something she tried to hide. Something she thought she had escaped from. But the problem with the past is it always finds a way back. It all started 3 weeks before she disappeared. This part, nobody ever talks about it. Not the news, not the blogs, not even the family interviews that went viral. But people close to her remembered things. They remembered little details that didn't make sense at the time. Like Kada complaining that her phone kept ringing late at night. Or the way she jumped every time she received a notification. Or the way she turned her phone face down on tables, like she didn't even want to see who was calling. One friend said she would stare at the screen like she already knew what it was, like she was scared of it. But the strange part was she never blocked the number. Who doesn't block a number that scares them? And this is where things start getting weird. According to one source, someone who knew Kada before the glow-up, the calls didn't start randomly. They started after she posted a certain picture. A simple mirror selfie. Normal lighting. Gray hoodie. Nothing dramatic. But the timing? That's where everything shifted. Because the moment she posted that picture, the unknown number reached out. The first call she got that night lasted only 5 seconds. No words. Just breathing. Heavy. Slow. Controlled. She hung up immediately, but according to the phone logs later, the number called again. And again. And again. Like someone trying to remind her that they still existed. But Kada didn't tell anyone right away. She acted like everything was normal. She went to work. She hung out with friends. She even laughed about stupid TikTok videos the day after the first call. But people say her smile looked tight, like she was forcing it, like her mind was somewhere else. And now when you look back, it all makes sense. She was trying to look normal while her phone was basically becoming a weapon against her. About a week in, the calls got worse. They didn't just come at night anymore, they came in the morning, in the afternoon, during lunch breaks, on her way home. And the creepiest part? The caller never said anything. Not a word. Just breathing. Sometimes a faint sound in the background. Once, she swore she heard a door closing behind him. Another time, she heard someone whisper her name. She told a friend, "It's like he's standing right behind me, but through the phone." But when her friend asked who he was, she just shook her head and said, "I don't know. I don't want to know." But she did know, at least partly. She knew the voice felt familiar. She knew the breathing felt familiar. She knew the silence wasn't random. And that's what scared her the most. 2 weeks before her disappearance, things escalated again. The unknown number stopped calling and started texting. The first message was simple. "You still ignoring me?" No emojis. No punctuation. Just a plain sentence that felt like a threat wrapped in casual tone. Kada didn't reply. She deleted the message. But the number texted again later that night. "I see you." Those 3 words made her drop her phone on the floor. She reportedly told someone, "It's like he's watching me, like he knows where I am." And the scary part? She wasn't wrong. The next day, Kada went to work like normal. But at around 8:52 p.m., she received another text. "Cute outfit." She froze. She was wearing new jeans and a top she hadn't posted anywhere. Nobody online knew. Only people physically around her knew. Which meant he was close. Too close. Fans later speculated whether the stalker was someone from her building, someone from her workplace, or someone from her past. Nobody knows. But someone was definitely nearby, watching her in real time. But here's where everything starts spiraling. She never told police. She never filed a complaint. She never even told her family the full story.
Why?
Because deep down, she believed something that would later become the most terrifying part of the story. She believed that whoever was calling her was someone she once trusted. Now, let's talk about the last week. This week is the part investigators don't explain properly. They talk about timelines and CCTV and last sightings, but they skip the emotional details, the panic, the fear, the strange behaviors. According to multiple people, Kada started acting differently. She wasn't sleeping. She kept checking windows. She started locking her door even when she was home. She stopped going out at night. She even unfollowed certain people on social media, like she was trying to cut someone off. At work, she told a coworker, "If something happens to me, it's because I ignored the signs." That line haunts people now. 3 days before she went missing, the unknown number called again, but this time, Kada answered. Maybe out of fear. Maybe out of exhaustion. Maybe because she couldn't take the silence anymore. And according to someone who overheard her side of the call, she said one sentence that still gives people chills. "Please stop. I don't want any trouble." The caller didn't respond, just breathed.
Slow.
Heavy. Controlled. She hung up crying. Then came the last 24 hours. This is where the story becomes something else entirely. Something darker. Something almost cinematic in the worst possible way. Because the unknown number didn't just call once. It called 7 times, every few hours. The last call? It happened minutes before Kada vanished. And that call is what investigators tried to bury. Because sources say she wasn't arguing. She wasn't crying. She wasn't panicking. She was whispering. Whispering like someone was right outside her door. Whispering like she was hiding. Whispering like she knew exactly who was calling her. And the last thing she reportedly said on that call? "Why are you doing this again?" That one word. Again. It changes everything. It means this wasn't new. This wasn't random. This wasn't an accidental stalker. This was someone connected to her past. Someone she already dealt with before. Someone she already escaped from once. Someone who came back. And the moment she said that word again, everything in this story turned inside out. Because if something like this happened before, if someone had stalked her before, if someone had forced their way back into her life after she escaped them once, that means this wasn't a sudden obsession, it was a continuation. A sequel to a nightmare she never talked about. And that's why people who knew her personally say the last day felt different. Like she already knew something was coming for her. Like she wasn't running from a stranger, she was running from a shadow she recognized. Right after that final phone call, Kada started moving strangely. Not panicked, not hysterical, just focused.
Silent.
She paced around her apartment like someone waiting for something. She kept checking the peephole. She sat by the window once, but immediately pulled back like she saw something outside. She turned off all her lights even though it wasn't even dark yet. One neighbor told investigators she saw Kada sitting in her hallway, legs pulled to her chest, pressing her phone against her forehead like she was trying to gather courage. But here's something nobody talks about. Her phone pinged a location during those final minutes. A tower ping miles away from where she was eventually found. That ping happened exactly 3 minutes after the last call. 3 minutes. Which means the phone moved. Or someone moved it. Or she was on the move. Fans theorized she left her apartment voluntarily thinking she could end the situation, once and for all. Others think someone lured her outside. But the truth? The truth is more complicated than anything the internet imagined. Because right before she stepped out of her building, she left something behind, a note. A small ripped notebook page left on her kitchen counter. The handwriting shaky, the ink uneven, but still readable. It said, "If I don't come back, look at him." No name, just him. And the him is the scariest part of this entire story, because nobody knows who she meant. Investigators never released that note publicly. Friends only mentioned it quietly, and the internet never got the name either. Not yet. So now the question becomes, what made her leave her apartment after all the fear? Why walk outside, knowing she was being watched? Why go alone? Why step into the night when she spent weeks avoiding it? What changed? The number called again. This part wasn't officially confirmed, but multiple sources swear she received one last voicemail. Not a call, a voicemail, left exactly 7 minutes before her last sighting. In that voicemail, according to a friend who later heard it, there was a man's voice.
Calm. Too calm.
He said 3 chilling words. "We're not done." And the moment she heard that, Kada grabbed her jacket, took one deep breath, and left her apartment. Security footage from the sidewalk caught her walking fast, looking over her shoulder twice, clearly shaken but not running. She kept her phone in her hand, gripping it like a lifeline. At one point, she even dialed a number but never pressed call. It's like she didn't know who she could trust. And if you think about it, that makes sense. When the danger comes from someone you know, someone familiar, someone with history, your instinct doesn't tell you to run to friends. It tells you to protect them by staying quiet. As she kept walking, something else happened that the public never heard about. A car slowly pulled up behind her. Not close, not right beside her,
But just close enough to watch.
Witnesses later argued over the color. Some said gold. Some said faded brown. Some said old-style sedan. But one detail everybody agreed on. The car's headlights didn't turn on until Kada turned the corner. Like whoever was inside didn't want to be noticed until she was already committed to a direction. She turned left onto a quieter street, and that's when she speed-walked. Not quite running, but right on the edge of breaking into a sprint. One witness who lived in the area said she kept looking forward like someone told her to meet them. Another said she looked terrified, like she was trying to reach somewhere before the car reached her. And then came the moment that gives people chills to this day. Kada looked at her phone one more time and mouthed something that cameras barely caught. A single word. Please. Nobody knows if she was whispering to herself, praying, or responding to another message. But seconds after that, she froze. Stopped walking completely. Because someone stepped out of the shadows. Not from the car. Not from across the street. From a walkway beside the old apartments.
A man.
Taller than her. Dark clothes. Hood up. He didn't run to her.
He didn't yell.
He didn't attack her. He just stood there. And Kada walked toward him. Slowly. Like she already knew who he was. Like she didn't want to go near him, but didn't have a choice. And here's the strange part. She wasn't screaming. She wasn't begging. She wasn't resisting. Witnesses said she looked defeated. Like she had been fighting something for weeks and finally gave up. One person described it like she walked into the arms of someone she was terrified of. The man leaned down, whispered something only she could hear. Kada stepped back, shook her head no. He stepped closer. The car engine behind them started. She looked over her shoulder once, just once, like she was hoping someone would help. But nobody moved. And then she disappeared into that alley with him. The footage cuts there. But what happened after was the part that shook the entire community. The car rolled forward.
Stopped.
The man got in. The car drove away slowly, too slowly for someone committing a crime. Almost like they didn't fear getting caught. Like this wasn't the first time. Like this was planned. Now, let's talk about the phone. The one piece of evidence that should have explained everything. After Kada vanished, her phone kept moving. It traveled miles away from where she was last seen. Ping after ping after ping. The tower hits didn't match her movements. They matched somebody else's. Somebody who wanted her phone to keep moving while something else happened somewhere else. And then the phone suddenly shut off. Not died. Not lost battery. Shut off manually. And yet, here's another detail nobody discusses. Hours after the shutdown, the phone turned back on. For a single minute. 1 minute. Just enough time to reconnect to a tower. Just enough time to show it was in a different location. Just enough time to send a silent message to whoever was tracking it. Then it shut off forever. Filmmakers couldn't write a script more terrifying than this. Because this wasn't random. This wasn't impulsive. This wasn't a stranger lurking around in the dark. This was someone who knew her. Someone who scared her. Someone she once trusted. Someone who called her again and again and again until she broke. And if you think that's the darkest part, it's not. Because when investigators pulled her digital records, they found something unexpected. A deleted contact. A name scratched out. A number erased manually days before the harassment started. A ghost in her phone. Someone she erased from her life thinking it would protect her. But his number came back. The deleted name was recovered. Not fully. Just the first letter. A single letter. J. And whoever J was, he was the reason she whispered, "Why are you doing this again?" The moment investigators recovered that single letter, J, everything shifted. Because when you're dealing with a stalker case, a hidden phone number, a vanished victim, and a trail of breathing calls, even one letter feels like a full confession. But this wasn't a name drop. It wasn't a clue left accidentally. It was a thread, tiny, fragile, but powerful enough to unravel the entire nightmare if pulled the right way. And that's exactly what started happening in the hours after. But the one thing people couldn't understand was why Kada erased the full name. Why hide it? Why protect the identity of someone who terrified her enough to change how she lived, slept, and walked outside? Unless, deep down, she didn't want the world to know who Jay really was. And that mystery? That's what sent friends, fans, and investigators spiraling into theories darker than anything the public had heard so far. Because the truth was, Kada did know AJ. More than one. And each one had a history. Each one had motive. Each one had a connection strong enough to make her whisper that haunting question. Why are you doing this again? But let's start with the one the internet obsessed over, Jalen. A guy from her past who she blocked years ago. Their relationship wasn't public, wasn't long, and wasn't healthy. People close to her said he had a temper. Said he hated being ignored. Said he once showed up unannounced outside her job. But when she finally cut him off, he disappeared. Or at least, that's what everyone thought. When the details of the phone harassment surfaced, some fans immediately pointed fingers at him. But the timeline didn't fully match. Jalen had moved out of the state, supposedly. Without proof, everything felt like a stretch. Then came the second theory. Jarrell, an old coworker who was slightly obsessed with her. He flirted too much, messaged too often, got angry when she didn't respond. The kind of guy who people describe as harmless until he's not. But the thing is, Jarrell was on a cruise the week before she vanished. His alibi seemed clean. His phone records didn't match. And yet, Kada once told a friend, "He scares me sometimes." But was he the one? Or was that fear just leftover discomfort from old interactions? And then came the darkest theory of all. Someone she never dated, never blocked, never fought with, but once trusted completely. Someone close. Too close. Someone she worked with before her life went public. Someone who disappeared from her life after a fallout nobody understood. A guy named Jordan. Jordan wasn't a boyfriend, wasn't a fling, wasn't a friend with benefits. He was something else entirely, someone who helped her early in her career, helped her build her portfolio, helped her with shoots, helped her with projects. Someone who knew where she lived, where she worked, who her friends were, what her weaknesses were. Someone who started out kind, supportive, helpful, and slowly grew possessive. Quietly,
subtly.
until one day Kada cut him off completely. She told someone at the time, "He gives me weird vibes. Like he thinks he owns my time." But she never went into detail about what exactly he did. And Jordan? He left quietly, deleted their pictures, stopped texting, stopped calling. For a whole year, he was completely invisible. So invisible that when she started receiving the harassing phone calls, nobody even considered him. Not until the letter J showed up in her deleted contacts. Suddenly, everything pointed back to him. The timing, the sudden obsession, the silence, the reappearance, the familiarity in the breathing, the calm voice, the way Kada whispered again. And the most bone-chilling detail? Jordan used to call her late at night just to listen to her breathe back when they were still talking. She once described it to a friend as cute but weird. That same pattern appeared in the stalker calls, silent, heavy breathing, a familiarity that made her skin crawl. But here's the twist. Jordan had no known address anymore. No social media. No job records. No updated driver's license. He simply vanished off the grid. A missing ghost with no trail until the night Kada disappeared. Because at 2:13 a.m., after her phone shut off for good, another device pinged off the same tower. A device registered to a name starting with J. A device that turned on for less than 9 seconds. Just long enough to sync location. Long enough to confirm it was in the same area her phone last pinged. And then it shut off, never activating again. Investigators never confirmed this detail publicly, but people who worked close to the case said the ping was real. Said it connected the mysterious J person to the final movements of Kada's phone. Said it was the missing puzzle piece. But that wasn't the only clue. 3 days after Kada vanished, someone saw a figure, hooded, tall, silent, leaving flowers at a spot near the area she was last seen. Not flashy flowers. Not store-wrapped bouquets. Just a handful of wildflowers tied with a rubber band. The witness said the figure didn't stay long. Didn't look around. Didn't kneel. He just placed the flowers down and walked away. When asked later why this moment stood out, the witness said, "He walked like he knew her. Not like a stranger paying respect. Like someone who was saying goodbye." But who leaves flowers at the scene of a crime unless they're guilty? Or grieving? Or both? Then things spiraled again when investigators found something in her apartment they originally overlooked. A shoebox hidden inside the back of her closet. Inside that shoebox were old notebooks, letters, and something far more disturbing, printed photos of her taken without her knowledge. Photos from across the street. Photos of her walking to work. Photos of her sitting at a cafe alone. Photos from angles only someone stalking her would get. And in one of the envelopes holding the photos was a slip of paper with 3 words scribbled on it. "We're not finished." The same line that was in her final voicemail. The same man's voice she whispered to on the phone. The same threat she feared. And now the case had shifted from a missing person tragedy to a full-blown psychological nightmare. Because whoever Jay was, he wasn't just stalking her. He wasn't just calling her. He was documenting her, tracking her, studying her. And when she cut him off, that obsession didn't die. It grew. But here's the part that twists the knife. Just when investigators thought they had all the pieces, the final blow hit. Security footage from another location surfaced. A building across town captured a man matching the same figure from the nighttime flowers entering a storage unit. The timestamp? Exactly 1 hour after Kada disappeared. He stayed for only 4 minutes. Inside that unit, investigators later found discarded phone boxes, a wig, a hoodie, and a burner phone, destroyed completely, smashed into pieces. But the box? The label on the phone box had a partial first name, Joe. And that was it. The rest was ripped away. But the handwriting on the torn label? That's what finally broke investigators. Someone close to Kada confirmed that Jordan often wrote his name with that same sloppy slant, that same oversized J, that same distinctive curl on the O. The evidence wasn't enough for an arrest, but it was enough to know that J wasn't a stranger. He wasn't a ghost. He was real. And he was out there. And as for J, he vanished again. No camera caught him after that night. No phone call. No text. No digital footprint. Nothing. But the secrets he left behind stayed. And the final twist? A voicemail. Not from Kada's phone. Not from Jay's phone. From a completely unknown device. Sent to one of Kada's closest friends. A short, chilling message. A single word. Soon. And that word changed everything. Because it meant one terrifying thing. Jay wasn't done. Not with Kada. Not with her story. Not with anyone connected to her. And that's why this case didn't end when she vanished. It only began. And that's where things stand right now. A trail of calls, a hidden number, a man known only as Jay, a past nobody knew existed, and a vanished young woman who spent her final days terrified of a voice she once recognized. This case doesn't feel random. It doesn't feel impulsive. It doesn't feel like a stranger in the dark situation. It feels personal,
Deep.
emotional, obsessive. And the scariest part? Whoever Jay is, he's still out there. Watching. Waiting. Moving in the shadows like he never left. Now you tell me, what do you think really happened here? Do you believe Jay was an ex? A friend? A coworker? A jealous admirer? Do you think the calls were just harassment or something far more planned? Do you think the voicemail saying soon means he's coming back? Or do you think someone else entirely was involved? Someone hiding behind the letter J? Drop your thoughts below, because this story isn't even close to done. Every day, new clues pop up. New rumors surface. New theories explode online. And trust me, the next update might be the one that turns this case upside down again. So make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel BaddieX, and hit that notification bell because when the next leak drops, when the next message gets exposed, when the next twist hits this case, you'll want to be the first one to know. This is your moment to join the investigation. Your theories, your comments, your energy, all of it matters. And remember, this story isn't ending. It's just beginning.